Okay, next under the section called the quote process, we're going to talk about quote timeframes. Clients, as we mentioned before, clients often complain that they receive quotes very late. And as we mentioned, one reason is brokers withhold quotes because they don't want to have their quotes used to simply drive down somebody else's pricing, and that ties into not sharing numbers, etc. What we're talking about here, another reason that quotes come in very late is that the clients actually defeat their own purposes in trying to get quotes early. And so it's important to get started early as possible, and that allows you to reasonably expect quotes to come in early. So we like to say the time frames are 90, 60, and 30. At 90 days is the earliest time prior to expiration that an underwriter will typically look at an application for a renewal. They won't look at it until it's within 90 days of the expiration date. So we recommend to all clients that they start the process right at the 90-day mark. And we recommend that they get a complete application out to the broker or all brokers by 60 days. And when I say a complete application, you have to understand that an underwriter will not even begin typically to work on an account until everything is there, until the applications are there, the lists of drivers are there, until the updated schedule of estimated payrolls are there, until, most importantly, the 4 or, depending on the underwriter, 5 years of loss runs are there. And so you really don't start the clock ticking on the underwriter until the underwriter really does have a complete application and submission package. Obviously, the client can control all of that process with the direction of the broker. The client can control all of that process with the exception of loss runs. And there's most brokers can help you in this regard. If they can't, there's a website called lossruns.com that's very inexpensive to use and allows brokers to go direct. We'll talk about tricks that brokers play with loss runs when they try to defeat the client's interest in obtaining quotes. But just remember, lossruns.com is a way that you can make sure that you get quotes. And if you order them, you should get them within about 2 weeks' time. So the point here, though, is that you have to get the clock ticking at around the 60-day mark by sending to the underwriters a complete application that includes 4 years of what are called currently valued loss runs. For those of you who worked on your insurance before, you've probably heard that term. What that means, currently valued, means that the valuations on the loss runs for losses, for what has been paid and what is reserved for possible future payments, that those values have been updated within 90 days of expiration. So they'll have the loss runs will have a date on them, a valuation date, and that date has to be within 90 days of expiration. That would be a currently valued loss run. So once the underwriter receives all of the applications, the supplemental documents, estimates of payroll, lists of vehicles, schedule of property values, and currently valued loss runs, the clock starts. So we would say at the 60-day mark, make sure all of those things are in the hands of the underwriter, because most underwriters require at least 30 days to underwrite an account. You can't expect an underwriter to release a quote earlier than about 30 days after they've received a very complete application, including currently valued loss runs. Once you do all this, if you stay on these time frames, then you should very easily be able to set a quote deadline. And we recommend you set a quote deadline right at the beginning of the process. And typically we would say the deadline is, you should make the deadline at least 7 to 10 days out from your expiration date as the deadline for all quotes to come in. And that's very reasonable. Those time frames, if you stick to those time frames, that's very reasonable for all underwriters to quote. And as we said before, if you commit to not sharing numbers repeatedly, it's fair to hold brokers accountable for delivering all their quotes at least 7 to 10 days in advance of the expiration date.